Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Coco and Daltz podcast. Oh, we're excited about this one. This is going to be a good one. For this week, I'm still not Coco.
And I'm still not Daltz.
So, Coco, what are we talking about this week? We binge-watched, well, I guess we just watched it. It's not really a binge watch. Is it a binge watch, but it's just one movie?
No, but it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes long, so it was pretty long.
So it's longer than the standard episode of something.
Yeah.
But it's not quite The Irishman.
No.
I guess.
No, that's for sure.
So what are we watching, or what are we talking about this week?
So this week we're talking about the brand new Netflix release, The Devil All the Time, which is a whole lot of movie. I am going to try to summarize it. There's stuff I'm necessarily just going to have to leave out because, like I said, whole lot of movie.
I purposely did not take the summary on for this one because there's no way I was going to hit it.
Daltz, yeah. That I think I'm going to be better at this one than Daltz would be.
Yes.
So the movie starts out with Bill Skarsgård plays a guy named Willard. He's coming home from World War II. On his way home to West Virginia, he stops in a little town in Ohio, meets and falls in love with a waitress. They get married and have a kid named Arvin. When Arvin is around 7, 8, 9 years old, his mom and dad both die. So he's now an orphan. He gets shipped off to West Virginia to live with his grandma, who is also raising the baby daughter of a family friend who got killed by her crazy preacher husband, who, as an aside, killed her and then tried to resurrect her, which, spoiler alert, never actually happens.
This is not a summary. This is actually the movie, I think.
Yeah. So grandma's raising now Arvin and baby Lenora. Flash forward 15 years. Arvin is now played by Tom Holland, a.k.a. Spider-Man. Lenora is now played by Eliza Scanlon, also known from Little Women. Lenora gets pregnant by sleazy preacher Robert Pattinson. She kills herself. Arvin figures out
Pattinson, a.k.a.
Arpats, a.k.a. Edward Cullen from Twilight. Spider-Man,
which I knew. I totally knew that.
Spider-Man figures out that Edward Cullen is the baby daddy. There's a confrontation. Spider-Man flees West Virginia and goes back to Ohio, where he gets picked up. So the whole time this plot is going on, featuring Arvin, there's another main plot featuring a husband and wife serial killer team played by Riley Keough and Jason Clarke. Mm-hmm. They pick Tom Holland up after he has car trouble. A confrontation with them ensues. He ends up making it back to his hometown, where he has yet another confrontation with the sheriff of that county, who happens to be the brother of the serial killing wife that Tom Holland just had a confrontation with. Final confrontation ensues. Tom Holland flees and goes to Cincinnati and ends up not dying at the end of the movie, which I was actually surprised about because I was like, I don't know if this is the kind of movie where God's wrath is not gonna rain down on everybody involved in this movie.
So you've just completely encapsulated the movie. There's no need for anybody to go see it. Right.
Well, I mean, I really don't think there's any way that you can not spoil this movie because it's so kind of esoteric. It's very like Christian Gothic, Christian noir-y, and I don't think that you can just not completely give it away.
Well, and it's very southern, even though it takes place in Ohio. Parts of it take place in Ohio. It's very backwoodsy. Yeah. It's very rural. It's very rednecky.
You just need the kid from Deliverance with the banjo.
Right.
That's basically all that's
exactly
missing.
It. It's kind of like, I think my summary would have been, not that I'm criticizing yours, but it would have been like, some stuff goes on in the backwoods.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not good.
Right.
But it's also kind of what you would expect to happen. So the preacher guy, played by Vampire Boy, you could tell he's up to no good right away.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You can tell he's making moves on either the men or the women or the young boys or the young girls, depending on which way the wind was blowing. You could tell something was going to happen there, and it did. And you could tell that Spider-Man was going to get some revenge action on some people, and he did.
Yeah, because that's how he was taught. Bill Skarsgård taught him to use violence
Right.
to respond to violence, and that's what ended up happening when Arvin is now no longer a 9-year-old boy.
So this is based on a book.
And the author of the book, I believe his name is Donald Ray Pollock. He was the narrator
Right.
of the movie. So there were voiceovers throughout the movie that would kind of have quick asides. It was kind of like E2 Mama Tambien-ish in that
Wow.
respect for me.
I was going to say Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that too.
In the murder and the malfeasance. And it felt a little bit like, I mentioned this to you offhand when we were watching it, it sort of had like an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou kind of vibe to the Coen Brothers classic with George Clooney and assorted other great character actors in that one. And it had this backwoodsy, like we're in the bayou kind of feel to it, even though, like I said, it wasn't really in the deep south. It was it was in Ohio and it was West Virginia. So it wasn't really all that southy, but it sure felt really south, like the accents and everything like that. And Robert Pattinson's accent was very much the Southern Bible Belt preacher voice, whether he was putting that on or not, I don't know, in terms of the character. It had that kind of vibe to it. But then when you said Ohio, I was like, oh yeah, right. This was kind of an Ohio movie. Like, it doesn't really feel like it was Ohio. What did you think, Coco?
Well, I just spent like 20 minutes summarizing the movie. So why don't you tell us what you thought?
So I think you're maybe serving up a softball here to me. You're lobbing one up. So I had a hard time really getting interested in this movie. So let's backtrack. We went into this movie not really knowing anything about it. We knew it was trending very high on Netflix on the particular day we watched it, which was yesterday.
It had a lot of pre-buzz before its release. Like, this is one that we actually took a look at the list of things that were coming to Netflix this month, and we were like, oh, we should watch that. Like,
in one of our planning meetings, we were sitting around the board table with all the staff members.
Our production meetings.
Right, our production meetings. And we were sitting around, and I was like drinking a Dunkin', and you were like looking at your phone and smoking a cigarette. And
that wasn't a cigarette.
With the with really thick, really big sunglasses on because you didn't want anybody to recognize you. So at that production meeting, when we were talking about this, we just kind of skimmed right over it because we were excited about Away, and we were excited about the Challenger one that we were doing.
And Ratchet.
And other movies that are coming and going. And this one is like, yeah, it's new. It's got Tom Holland in it and the vampire guy. So let's watch that one. So what I'm saying is there's some pros and cons to going into something and not having any preconceptions about it. And I didn't have any preconceptions about it. I knew it might be interesting, and I knew it was an hour, or it was a movie that we could bang out. It wasn't a series that I didn't know anything about. So having said that, I'm not sure I would have watched this if I'd have known more about it. Because it's just not really my type of movie. I mean, it had a lot of potential, and there's a lot, there's murder, and there's
a lot of murder.
There's malfeasance, and there's broken characters, and there's some interesting background, and there's flashbacks, and there's flash forwards, and there's flashing on the preacher's part. But I didn't really dig this movie. It was just too complicated, and it was too messy, and it was too, in some ways, predictable. Like, it was, I could see what was going to happen. I knew that Spider-Man at the end of the day was going to come out the hero. And
you did?
Yeah, it's just like I knew that he was going to set everything straight because his character was formed by this double tragedy of his parents dying, and that seems like a redemption arc to me. Is like he comes out of it and he's wronged, or he's righted all the wrongs that occurred along the way. So I didn't really, it didn't dazzle me. I mean, I liked the vampire guy's acting in it. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh,
and you didn't. I thought, but I haven't seen him in anything else. So I don't know what the comparison is there, but I thought he was pretty good. And I thought Tom Holland was okay. I mean, I've only seen him in Avengers, I think.
Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming. And
did we see Spider-Man Homecoming?
We did. I dragged you to that.
Okay.
And you sat there and you steam was coming out of your ears the whole time.
Was it a movie?
Yeah, we went to the double dip.
Was I sitting and facing the other direction during part of the movie?
No, but you were very slumped over, and the body language was like, I really better get some later because I'm really angry about this.
And when you say some, you mean cookies, because that's what we're talking about. Well, I thought he was fine. I mean, I don't really know much about his acting chops. The fact that it was a book, you could tell.
Yeah.
The narration is a dead giveaway. When they can't stitch the storyline together, they throw in a narrator to try to pull everything together when it's a book adaptation. And it was fine. But I think it's, I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm not recommending this one. How about you, Coco?
Wow.
You go.
I was more into it than you, but definitely not knowing anything about it, I think, was a setback because I could have braced myself for it better if we had known. I loved Tom Holland in it. I thought he was great.
Oh, yeah?
I did not like Robert Pattinson.
Oh, how come?
I thought he turned the camp up to 11. He was like the only person playing it campy. Everybody else was being very deadly serious.
Right.
And like when he was talking to Lenora in, I believe, one of the seduction scenes, or maybe when she told him she was pregnant, and he said something about Hollywood celebrities like Ava Gardner or whatever. And I was like, what is that accent? Like, what are you doing?
But he was a preacher, though. He's like, the way I took it was his character was supposed to be over the top anyway. And he was acting as acting in that role.
I've only seen him, I believe, in the Twilight movies and The King, which you weren't interested in watching last year, so I watched it on my own. It was that Timothée Chalamet movie about Henry V, I think,
Oh, yeah, right.
and Joel Edgerton was
a period piece.
Yeah, that fatty. Who is that fatty? I don't know.
There's
it
so
starts
many...
with an F. Falstaff.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyways.
I was thinking John Candy. I mean,
anyways, Robert Pattinson played the French King, and he also played that was also a very kind of serious movie. And then suddenly here comes our Pats, and he's all campy, and he's got like a blonde wig, and he's very fey. And
so wait a minute. What about the King in Hamilton? The King in Hamilton was great.
Yeah, but
he was campy.
Yeah, but that fit, I thought.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
And especially with like our preconceptions about George III as well.
Yeah.
So for me, Robert Pattinson is one of those people I can only see him as Robert Pattinson, and then you throw him in this, and he took me out of it. I was just like, oh God.
So you're not going to go watch him in Batman?
Probably not. I'm probably not. So Tom Holland, yay. Our Pats, nay. The storyline, it was intriguing. It was very kind of windy around.
Yeah, that's why I say complicated. I had a hard time following a little bit of it.
I just meant it more like kind of meandered. Like I thought that it finally got like pretty good when Tom Holland just went crazy and started killing people. Yeah. So like the last like 20, 30 minutes of the movie, like that was when I thought it was like a really gripping,
it was focused,
exciting movie. And then before that, like I understand why you had to have everything before that, but it was just very kind of slow and plotting.
Well, you don't want it to turn into like First Blood or anything like that.
Well, I would. I know you don't. I know you're tired of the action movies, but I'm just like, yeah, man, just shoot everybody. Let's do it.
These are the times we're living in, people. Coco is fed up and had it.
And in real life, I'm like, due process. But in movies, I'm like, yeah, that guy's getting what's coming to him. I'm like, you kill our Pats. Like, you kill Sebastian Stan. Like, Spider-Man's taking out Bucky Barnes. Let's do it. Like, so I was harsh. I was feeling the Christian vengeance in this movie.
So when I'm sitting beside you watching a movie and you're completely motionless and you're focused entirely on the movie, I'm thinking, wow, she's looking at the subtext here and she's looking at where the influences are, and I'm fascinated. And meanwhile, you're like, kill the MF.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
stab him in the eye.
Well, there was subtext, because all the really bad guys in this movie are people who are supposed to be good guys.
Authoritarian.
Like the cops.
The authorities, I guess.
Yeah, the cops and the preachers. And I would hope that by now everybody would like know that just through life experience, that usually tends to be not true. Mm-hmm. But this just really...
The people you're supposed to trust are not trustworthy. That's the message in this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the book,
like
I guess.
One preacher like kills a lady.
Yeah.
One preacher is just like banging all the teen girls he can.
Right.
There's a cop who's a corrupt cop. He covers up like his sister's crimes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the people you're supposed to trust who are supposed to serve and protect do not do that. So
I wanted to see more about the corrupt cop covering up that was really fascinating to me, and maybe there's more about that in the book. But if you come upon something like that, and what comes first? I mean, family obviously comes first, but in a situation like this where your sister is part of a serial killing spree, where does the line get drawn? I mean, you got to be a cop first. I mean, I'm sure you take some sort of oath to say you'll uphold the law whenever possible and to the utmost, whatever it happens to be, when you get signed in as a cop. So that really seemed to me, that was really interesting, and that was kind of a very flash in the moment sort of part of the movie. So I thought there could have been more there, but maybe that got lost because there's just, there's only so much time.
Right. And I did actually so Sebastian Stan played the sheriff, the brother of Riley Keough. When he realized what she and her husband had been doing, he destroyed all the evidence, like all the pictures they'd taken of her having sex with the victims and then the victims' bodies. Like, he destroyed all those pictures. He burned everything. Like, I think he scrubbed down their apartment. But then, in his final confrontation with Arvin had been in their car, and he had taken photos from the car after his confrontation with the husband and wife. So when he kills Sebastian Stan, he plants the photos on Sebastian Stan's body. So the truth comes out eventually anyways. And I think that's like another like theme.
Good will prevail.
Yeah, good will prevail. Like I said, though, I wasn't expecting Tom Holland to survive. Like, I figured that hippie who picked him up in the VW bus was probably just going to he was going to get like a screwdriver straight in the neck, like, Lenora's mom did. Because I was like, this is not a movie with a happy ending.
Right. I thought he was just going to turn him in. So that's my different perspective. You're over there like imagining stabbings, and I'm thinking, well, maybe the law-abiding hippie will take him to the police precinct and turn him in with a citizen's arrest.
Right. Because then that would come full circle, right? Because everybody in this movie was just so touched by tragedy.
Right.
Just death and unwanted pregnancy and financial hardship, and just, so I figured this would like close the circle from like the father's kind of original sin in World War II, and now the son is gonna like die as well, the sins of the father and everything. So I was fully expecting Tom Holland to just bite it at the end. Well,
and especially considering the title of the movie, The Devil All the Time. You're thinking, well, the devil is winning. The devil is in the details. The devil is touching everything in this movie. You're thinking, well, the devil's going to win as well. And Tom Holland's not going to be around at the end. The other question I had regarding this movie is, so the dad brings back a Luger that apparently had been used that Hitler had used to shoot himself.
There's a lot of guns out there that, Hitler used to shoot himself with.
and yet the dad had done a tour in the South Pacific.
Right.
So I didn't put that together. I was like, well, the South Pacific and Germany, they're very far
not
apart.
Close.
Especially in those days. It's not like you're jumping on a plane and getting there.
Right.
So I didn't understand that bit. Maybe it was intentionally fraudulent. That is just another fake Hitler gun, but there was that sort of threw me off for a couple of minutes after I'm watching. So I'm trying to figure that out, and then something happened and I missed it. And so there were a couple of instances in this movie where I was just like, I didn't hear what they say, and I don't care. What do you say? I don't know. I'm looking at my phone. I don't care.
Yeah, you didn't pull out your phone as much as you normally do when you don't like something, but after the first couple of times, I was like, there's no way he's checking IMDb to see who that person is. Like, he's already checked IMDb a couple times for the cast, so I'm like, yeah, he's just texting now.
Texting my daughters or something like that. I'm very self-conscious now about my phone use during the movie because I know I'm going to get busted on the podcast. So as soon as I pull it out, it's like, well, you pulled your phone out 7 times in the first 25 minutes, and therefore I realized you didn't like this movie.
It's a tell.
It is a tell.
Apparently my tell is yawning and fidgeting, and your tell is
you're
Facebook.
Usually so in the zone. Like, sometimes I think you're asleep. You're like, I look over just with the corner of my eyes, like, is she really awake? Is she enjoying this? So I have no idea until the end of the movie. And sometimes we don't even talk about the movie afterward because we want to save it for the podcast. And so I'm like, I wonder how she's reacting to this movie. Like, sometimes I can tell, like, especially if we're binge watching something like Away, when there was so many episodes, it's like, well, we got to talk about some of this stuff.
Right.
We can't store it away. You're not supposed to bottle everything up. You're supposed to let it go.
Communication is the key.
Right. To a successful podcast.
So is there anything else you want to say about The Devil All the Time?
No, I just, it's not even half a Bible up. I think it's just,
wow.
Yeah, it's like a fraction of a Bible. I didn't care for it very much. And it had a lot of potential. Like, it could have been, in the Garden of Good and Evil, it could have been like a Southern treatise that was done well, and you had sort of fear in your mind for the characters and that sort of thing, but it just didn't, and supernatural and things like that. Like, I'm not looking for magic or anything like that, but it just didn't it didn't connect to me. And maybe the book is better. The books are always usually better,
right,
in these kinds of things. So the book is probably a little bit more layered and a little bit more connected, but this one just didn't do it for me. How about you, Coco? What are you going to do today? Are you going to do a letter grade or a number grade, or are you just going to kick me underneath the table?
I'm going to go back to the letter grade because, as listener will know, I was unable to give a letter grade on our previous podcast. So I got to be consistent. I got to get back on track. I'd say I'd give this maybe like a C-.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it would have been higher than that because you liked it more than I did.
I did like it more than you, but I think it was too long.
Mm-hmm.
It was just very meandery.
You didn't like our Pats either.
No, our Pats was not a plus at all. Tom Holland I thought was great.
Yeah.
But
I think that's because Tom Holland is Spider-Man and you're like extrapolating that out of it.
Another strike against the movie is that there was doggy side early on, and I was very unhappy about that. And,
Canine side?
And at the very end, Tom Holland goes back to the old homestead, and he finds his dog's bones and buries them, and buries the Luger with them.
Right. And those bones, by the way, were amazingly scrubbed clean.
Oh my God, they were.
So they were like bleached white. It's like he went into a museum. At first I was like, that can't be the dog's bones because they're too clean. Like, where did he get those from? So what do I know?
Right. So, yeah, it was fine. I'm not sitting here like, oh, that's 2 hours and 20 minutes of my life I'll never get back. But like, I don't need to watch it again.
Yeah. And I'm not going to run out and buy the book either. Sometimes if I watch a movie and I really like it, I'll go out and buy the book, like Up in the Air or something like that. But not this one.
Yeah.
If I haven't already read it.
So there you go, listener. Coco and Daltz don't really recommend The Devil All the Time.
Yeah. And we've had some pretty good stuff lately, and we've had a good string. So every now and then you're going to get a dud, I think.
Yeah. For real. I also want to mention the crazy preacher who stabbed his wife in the neck with a screwdriver and then tried to resurrect her. Played by the same guy who played the crazy big pharma biotech guy in The Old Guard.
Yes.
So this guy apparently is making a career out of playing villains in Netflix original movies. So
reprehensible dudes.
As soon as he showed up on the screen, I was like, that's the guy from The Old Guard. And so be prepared to see more of him, apparently, in Netflix original productions.
Maybe it's like the olden days where they have like studio contracts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he's got like a Netflix studio contract.
How can we get one of those?
I think we should get one, actually. And we should just be like in the writer's room with all these ideas we've got.
That's a great idea. Netflix, please email us at cocoandaltz@gmail.com and let us know that you would like us to work for you. We would appreciate that.
We'll take the call.
Yeah. You can also find us on Facebook at Coco and Daltz. You can find us on Twitter at Coco and Daltz. You can find us on the interwebs at cocoandaltz.com, where we review things that we don't talk about on the podcast. And finally, for the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Google Play, YouTube, IMDb, and now on Amazon Music.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And if you're in India, we are also on Ghana.
So once again, listener, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm not Coco this week.
And I'm not Daltz.